Hello and welcome to another session of Groundbreakers Live. I'm your host Javed Mohammed, and I'm very honored to have with us Adarsh Shah. Adarsh, welcome.
Hi, Javed. Thanks for having me.
So, no, absolutely. So Adarsh is an independent consultant. He's got a long introduction, but I'll make it short. He's one of the organizers of DevOps Days in New York City, and yeah, great to have you here. So we were talking a little bit off camera. So you have a presentation coming up at Dev.next, Kubernetes in 75 minutes. I like how precise it is. um, and as we were saying, obviously like Kubernetes has kind of become a de facto standard in the space that it's in. But perhaps we can just kind of just pause and just rewind and try to understand like what was like, before Kubernetes becoming the de facto for orchestration. What was life like before pre-Kubernetes?
Yeah. Yeah, and for a long time. So I'll start a bit further back where people used to have stuff running on VMs, right? We have bare metal, and then came VMs, where people thought if we virtualize stuff, we can automate, have images of VMs, so we can reproduce those things. And then came Docker containers, right? So you're able to containerize stuff and run it in different places, troubleshoot things easily. And then there was a point where there was this war for container orchestration platforms. So there were a bunch of different platforms like Mesos, and Kubernetes was one of them, and bunch of other ones that were around, including Docker Swarm. And for a long time, people had a difficult time choosing between one or the other. But I would say since last couple of years, it's pretty clear that Kubernetes is kind of the winner in that space. And the reasons for that is it being open source, large community behind it. A lot of people, not just it came out of Google, but not just people from Google, but a lot of other companies and individual contributors who are supported with Kubernetes. So life before Kubernetes was basically either you are not using containers or you are choosing one of the 4 or 5 platforms that were available. But then came Kubernetes, and then that kind of is de facto now when you look at container orchestration, and becoming a standard.
Okay. So imagine you got someone out there who's trying to build some kind of an application. What are some of the kind of considerations they need to look into when they're looking into using Kubernetes?
Yeah. So one thing I would like to say here is that Kubernetes is not easy, right? So it's not for everyone. If you can get by without it, where you have a simple application where you don't need to worry about managing a platform. I would say, or even like, there are managed platforms right now, like EKS, GKE, where the cloud providers manage the control plane for you for Kubernetes. So it's definitely easier, but still, even provisioning those and working with those are not as easy as you would like. They are becoming easier, so hopefully in future it'll be even more easier. But what I would say is look at easier solutions like using ECS, if where you don't have to worry about some of these complexities would be a good way to start. But there are cases where you wanna Kubernetes has a bunch of features that will make it applications running in production easier to manage as well. So I would start by saying, if it's a simple application, don't worry about Kubernetes. Try to use something which is very simple. There are managed options available on each cloud provider. Then second step, I would say is like, if you can be on cloud provider, look at one of these managed Kubernetes options. EKS, GKE being, but if you have to be on-prem, that's when you really want to look at other options like Red Hat option for running OpenShift, or Rancher and other options to run on-prem. But yeah, like because Kubernetes gives you that flexibility, a platform and abstraction where you can move around your applications running in different platforms, different locations, including cloud provider, you can even do that if you need to at some point.
So are you saying, so, and I just want to make sure we're kind of capturing this. So you're saying if you've got an application which is multi-user, multi-region, you know, are those the kind of things, because you said it's complex, and is that the kind of situation where Kubernetes makes more sense?
That is definitely one of those, but also if you're looking at a lot of other features like API gateways, you have a lot of integration now. So in one of the places clients I'm working at, we are using HashiCorp Vault for secrets management. And there is an integration of HashiCorp Vault with Kubernetes. So it's pretty easy to use that with Kubernetes. There are other options, like we are using API gateways like Ambassador, and it has pretty good support for Kubernetes. So if you're looking to use these advanced features in production, other thing is, let's say you want a flexibility of a platform where you can run your applications anywhere, right? Different regions, but also different cloud providers. On-prem versus different cloud, right? So it gives you that abstraction layer where once you have that Kubernetes cluster, wherever it is, you can then build stuff on top of that can be the same mostly.
So both multi-cloud as well as like hybrid cloud. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are there any, like, and I'm sure there are probably many best practices around using Kubernetes. You want to highlight a couple?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things is around managing security and isolation within the cluster. So as you grow and as you start using your Kubernetes cluster, you want to look at creating different namespaces for your applications. You want to also look at how you provision your cluster that I mentioned earlier. Look at automated ways to provision it so that you're not, doing it manually. So that gives you option to provision it easily, deprovision it if you need to. And then within the cluster itself, starting simple, but looking at features like services, where you can have load balancers available for externally exposable services, and then also things that integration wise I mentioned, right? So yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, it sounds like a fascinating presentation, and just based upon this, I don't know even if we're touching the surface here, obviously there's a lot to it. So it sounds like a very exciting presentation, and I hope the folks out there will check it out in the fall. Besides that, I have to ask you a non-technology question. There's a picture in your background which seems very prominent, and I'm curious, both for myself as well as the viewers out there. What's the story behind that? What is it?
Oh, the wallpaper. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually Amsterdam.
That's Amsterdam.
And
okay.
Yeah, it's one of those the canals in Amsterdam. And I was actually, when I got this, I researched, and there's a story behind the person who took the picture and the bicycle. I don't remember the details, but yeah, it's some kind of a love story. And then yeah, but it's Amsterdam.
Okay, and have you been to Amsterdam?
Not me myself, and I haven't taken this picture, but yeah, that is definitely a place I want to visit.
I'm assuming it's on your bucket list.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, all right. Well, Adarsh, thank you so much for giving us your time, and all the best.
Yeah, thanks, Javed.
Thank you very much.
Bye.